I wonder what it would feel like to be loved by another. Courtship is something that, as I understand it, is especially valuable to humans. What must it be like to have someone devoted to you, and you be devoted to them? I, of course, am devoted to my work, but I do sometimes wonder how it would feel. I confess myself a hopeless romantic. I've sometimes spent my free moments just watching young lovers doing simple, meaningless things. But as I've said before, the most meaningless things can have more weight and purpose behind them than anything else. In fact, I remember one clearly. I recall I was sitting under a stone statue of some general who I'm sure I met during the Revolutionary War, but I'll be damned if I can remember his name now. But I saw a young man and a young woman walking down the sidewalk of a park. The young man was smiling ear to ear, and the woman, with far darker hair than his, was beaming too. I don't know what they were talking about, but their smiles were infectious. She'd laugh, and he'd smile wider. They held hands, and occasionally he'd squeeze her just enough to make her squeeze back. I was smiling too. I couldn't help it. Their love was intoxicating. They didn't see me, of course. I'm rather good about not being noticed when I don't want to be. But I had an appointment nearby, so I had nowhere else to go. I just simply observed. At one point, the young man stopped talking and stopped walking. The girl stopped short too and looked at him, her smile fading, not knowing what he was doing. And the young man, he had a serious expression. His back was stiff, his chin tilted a bit, as if trying hard to hold back something deep behind him. It's the look a person usually makes when they're frightened but don't want to show it. I watched with more interest now because I wasn't sure what he was doing, though I suspected. But then the young man dropped to a knee and reached into his pocket. The girl let out a gasp but didn't pull her hand away as the young man held out a simple box with a ring on it. The girl began to weep and then finally threw her arms around the young man. It was a marriage proposal, can you believe it? I've rarely seen them. I felt honored to have witnessed it, because marriage is one of those institutions that I have a great amount of respect for. Like I said, devoting yourself to someone other than yourself is respectable in and of itself, and something I tend to think about. As I recall, one of the vows taken in marriage is "till death do us part." Of course, I could be wrong about that. I attend so few marriage ceremonies. But if that is true, I can't help but feel a little self-conscious. I don't always like my job, as you can probably imagine. It's hard work and it's unrewarding. Most often I find that I cause more harm than good, and maybe I don't have the right perspective of things, but I hate the idea that I would be what brings apart such happiness. What I wouldn't give to experience that happiness for myself, or to give it to someone else. I recall one time trying to actually act out such a scene for both ends. I played the male and the female, trying to imitate the reactions both sides might have, to guess at the feelings. It's childish, I know, and I do of course feel a bit silly, but I can't help but think that despite it being cliche and a little dramatic, I rather like the idea. I dream about it, you know. I dream that I could hang up the cloak and armor, put aside the sword for an evening, and return to some obscure home in the middle of nowhere. There inside is another, a woman who waits for me and smiles when I come in. She comes and she embraces me, tells me she's happy to see me, that she hopes I had a good day. I sit with her, she tells me about her own, and I listen to her. I laugh with her. She listens to me. I hold her a while. And as I move to hold her again, the dream fades. Reality sets back in. The truth emerges. The truth that will never happen. This dream is ludicrous. It bears no sense of reality. It's something I can never have. Even if it were possible, any human willing to show devotion to me would inevitably reach a point where I took their soul, and then that relationship would end just as quickly as it began. Besides, who would love what I do, what I am? I am not a being many want any form of association with. Most would avoid me if they could. No. Such things were not meant for me. So I will continue to watch. I will watch as this young man and the young woman he just proposed to walk away, even lighter in step than before. They will walk down an aisle together. They will exchange vows. Later they will join together physically, spiritually, and lovingly. Hopefully they will have a family, and then their children will begin the same journey that their parents started. And all the while, this same couple, older now, will never lose that spark in their eye, that lightness in their step, that broad, infectious smile that leaves even a cynical angel like me grinning. And that's how marriage gets to me. How love impacts me. It's something that I can never reach, never have for myself. But it is something that I value greatly. These small moments that I can see from time to time and have the honor of witnessing. How special they can be. I wish that couple well, of course, and fortunately I don't believe either are on my list for a very long time, so I can assuredly say that they have long lives ahead of them. But it's starting to rain, so I'll put away the book. It's time to get back to work. Enough daydreaming. Still, what it must be like to love, and to be loved in return. Perhaps that would be the greatest blessing of them all. Sincerely, Death.